Welcome to another of the Fin Talks series of podcasts organised by FinanceMalta. I'm Vanessa MacDonald and I'm here with Lord Ed Vaizey. Ed, if I may call you that. We're here specifically to talk about fintech.
Yes.
How do you see Malta's role? Because we keep talking about fintech and innovation and digitalisation and so on and so forth. Are we doing well? Do we get good marks?
Yes, I'm excited to be here because obviously Malta has now a sort of growing reputation as a fintech hub, and as obviously everyone watching this knows, fintechs are these technology-driven financial services companies. And I've been working in and around financial services for most of my career. Before I became a politician, before I became a member of parliament, I worked with a very well-known company in the UK called Virgin, which went into financial services, and they disrupted all the established providers by providing very low-cost consumer financial products, and also, more importantly, plain language for consumers, because as we all know, financial services language can be a bit opaque and complicated. And that was kind of revolutionary, and I think they changed the system. Now I think technology is rapidly changing financial services. So you can now obviously have your bank on your phone. You don't even need to talk to a real person. If you have a query, you can talk to a bot. I know people think that bots can be quite sinister, but just saying things like, can I increase my overdraft? You can talk to your bot, and people are now very used to kind of managing their money on an app, online, on their phone. But what I think that means is that to enter into financial services, if you're a startup, it doesn't require huge resources. It requires a good idea and customer-friendly approach and so on. And that's revolutionary for financial services. But I also think it's revolutionary for a country like Malta, because now, in my view, the size of a country is almost irrelevant. Malta is a member of the EU, so it has access to a huge market
All the
already,
passporting, of course,
of 450 million people. So if you came to Malta to set up your company, apart from access to the EU, what are the other benefits? Well, the other benefit for me is regulation. And it seems to me that the Maltese government and Maltese policymakers have realised for a while now that they have the opportunity to create a robust, it's got to be robust, strong regulatory system for financial services, but crucially one that can be flexible when needed, because the key thing about fintech is that you're constantly moving forward and designing new products and you need to make sure that they're properly regulated, because we're talking about people's money here, but you also don't want your growth to be artificially stifled by regulations that are out of date or can't be modernised and updated quickly. And obviously we all talk about artificial intelligence all the time. Well, that's changing every industry, but it's obviously going to change financial services. So if you've got a small and nimble but well-informed regulator here in Malta, able to access the best of the EU, able to update its regulations, then I think Malta has a huge opportunity, and I think it's really exciting.
One of the things that you mentioned was obviously the speed that, fintech is by its very nature very innovative and so on. Can normal regulators keep up with that? Regulation and legislation is known for being rather stodgy and
well, it's very difficult.
Takes a long time for
Malta obviously has to work within the constraints of the EU. The EU has obviously got, for example, crypto regulation. It took time. You have to get 27 countries aligned. It takes time. But at the outer edges, you can be more flexible. The UK is a case in point. I chair the parliamentary group that looks at crypto regulation, and there are a lot of people that think that the UK is slow and behind the curve on crypto regulation. It's partly because although we have a very highly respected financial services regulator, we're a big country and it takes time, and also there's an abundance of caution. When you're as high profile as our financial regulator, you don't want to make any mistakes, whereas I think Malta is in a great position and has proven to be in a great position to say, look, crypto is here to stay. Let's have some robust regulations that protect the consumer. That's got to be first and foremost in your mind. But have a regulatory environment that will attract investors who want to set up companies here to tap into this growing market. So I do think it is important that a small regulator doesn't need to be an underpowered regulator, but it can be a nimble regulator.
One of the biggest problems that we have in Malta, like in many other jurisdictions, is talent. Trying to actually find the human capital to keep all of this going. We already have, as you know, in Malta, a very robust ecosystem, but we're still very short of talent. Is there any solution in
It's a really good question, and even the big economies have a problem with talent. In the UK, when I was the technology minister, it was always about how do you get the talent. Now, to a certain extent, technology talent is global and can move anywhere. And now we obviously know that technology talent can also be remote. You can use people who can be based in, the deepest, darkest desert somewhere and still be part of your team working remotely. I think there are two or three things that spring to mind when one thinks about Malta and talent. The first is, if you want people to come and work in your company physically, it has to be a nice place. So Malta's a lovely place to live. It's got, and this will sound superficial and trite, it's not meant to, great restaurants, great climate, great culture. It was interesting that Malta now has this plan for a Vision 2050, and they're looking at, how do you make Malta a great place to live? And that's really important. So weirdly, it's a sort of indirect answer to your question. Having a wonderful place to live is really important to attract top talent. And then secondly, obviously, you want to grow your homegrown talent. You want to be aware of the kind of skills that a modern economy needs, technology skills, AI skills, and you want to really lean in, which again, I think it helps to be small because you can move quickly to update your education system, to attract training providers who might train your homegrown talent to get the skills they need. And then thirdly, obviously, being a member of the EU, it's clearly very easy for people to move from nearby countries, whether it's Greece or Italy, to come, France or Spain or Germany, to come and live in Malta. They may only live here 2 or 3 years, but I keep meeting people who came for 6 months and have stayed for 20 years, so clearly there's something going on.
Final question. One of the problems with passporting is that it raises hackles. The more successful you are, the more people try to protect their turf, which is something that we've seen, for example, in Malta with gaming, where a number of countries tried to stop the passporting of services into their own countries and so on. Are we likely to see the same thing happening with fintech?
I think that's certainly a possibility, and I think it's a much, much bigger question about how the EU operates. We've found in the UK, when we were members of the EU, it's still very difficult to get some of our more successful sectors to have real access to the single market, particularly in services. Funnily enough, it was easier in goods, but if you're a law firm, it was hard to get your qualifications recognised. If you're a healthcare worker, it's hard to get your...
The intangible barriers to trade, yes.
And that is the EU's great problem, and it's a kind of almost a philosophical question you've asked, which is, does the EU see the bigger prize of a truly single market and what that can create by allowing genuine free movement of people? And do you think the EU economy would benefit overall if a small country like Malta decides that gaming is going to be one of its successful sectors, and then decides that fintech is going to be one of its successful sectors, and provides a regulatory home for them? Surely the ultimate benefit is that those companies will grow in size, dare I say it, compete with the Americans. Dare I say it, if you're a fintech that's successful in Malta, you might end up creating quite a few jobs in Germany, because even if you're a technology company that's on somebody's phone, you still need people on the ground promoting your company and so on. Also, you'll be providing low-cost services, say, to German companies, who will then benefit by saving money and investing it in what they do.
So basically, the world is our oyster and it's there for the taking.
Absolutely.
Super. Thank you so much for being with us.
It was a great pleasure.